It's a training camp tradition. The first Sunday of camp, the Morning Musers from The Ticket join me. They made the trip to Oxnard again this year. Gordon Keith, Craig Miller, and George Dunham. Now, Georgie, just for fun, you're the only one who's going to be able to hear these questions. You're the only one with an earpiece.
Okay.
You will then relay them and facilitate the discussion on that end. First of all, George, come in, please. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, Mike. Can you read me here live to tape from Oxnard?
We're good. We're good. We hear each other well. As our reporter on the ground at camp, George, first of all, have any Cowboys failed drug tests in the last hour?
Mike, I don't think so. Our sources indicate the answer to that is no. It stays at 3, the number of Cowboys suspended going into training camp. Back to you.
Let's talk about the team culture a little bit here. At the opening news conference, Jerry Jones said things are essentially fine, but when you're getting fined because too many guys are suspended, something has to change, right? George, take the ball and run with that topic. Go.
Yes, I think something has to change. I think they have to quit taking risk on players that they know have been in trouble and could get in trouble again when they come into the NFL. And they say they have programs in place, but they're clearly not working. And the fact that you go into the season missing 3 defensive starters is pretty ridiculous.
Go ahead and ask Craig what he thinks about that, George.
You agree with me on that, Craig?
I'm sorry, who are you?
I'm George, and we're talking to Mike. He's through there. Doocy.
Well, I thought this interview was going to be with Mike, but it's with you. You're asking me questions.
Well, through Mike. He actually set the table, and I'm just throwing it over to you about Jerry and taking risky players and all that.
The deal I cut was that Mike was going to ask me the question.
Just play along, okay? We're on Fox 4's budget here. Just play along.
What was the question? I wasn't paying attention.
Jerry, is he going to have to stop taking risk on such risky players?
He should, but he won't, because as he tells everybody, he's a wildcatter and he's a gambler, and that's how he made his fortune, was taking risks. And I think that the day he passed on Randy Moss and then saw Randy Moss torch him every year, I think that permanently changed his short-term plan, which was to avoid the risky draft picks and throw caution to the wind. He wasn't going to miss on another Randy Moss, so that's why in the last many years it's been Pac-Man and T.O. and now these 3 guys who are suspended, and Greg Hardy last year. It's a long list. Mike,
hey, both of us.
George, do me a favor. Ask Gordon what his favorite part of training camp is. That would be Gordon Keith.
Yes,
left,
Mike, I have Gordon Keith right here. What is your favorite part of training camp, Gordon?
George, it's the dating scene. I've dated many of the Cowboy players so far, and I look to adding to my totals here pretty soon.
About that, Mike?
If Donald Trump were to be running this camp, what kind of camp might it be? Gordon.
There you go. That's a good one. Yes, if Donald Trump was running this camp, what would that sound like?
What would it sound like?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think he's fishing for your Trump impersonation here.
Well, but he didn't ask that. He just asked what it would sound like.
Would you guys play along just with one bit? Just one?
Well, I'm just saying it's a little bit unnerving because Mike didn't even travel down here to interview us.
Right.
And I feel kind of ripped off.
Okay, well, I think that's the best you're going to get on the Trump thing, Deuce.
You feel ripped off. Is there any way that this offense can be good enough to compensate for a defense, George, that figures to be just awful?
Yes, in some ways. If you want to be 8-8, I think you can be. But I think that's the biggest problem with this team is can they do what they did 2 years ago? And I think that defense had a few more pieces than this defense. So I think the answer to that is no. If you're looking to go 12-4 and make a run in the playoffs, I don't think that's possible with these defensive players.
I think that this team is absolutely fantastic.
That's my Bill Clinton.
There we go. There's a Clinton take on training camp.
Ask Craig about this offense. If it can be so spectacularly tremendous that it can overcome the defensive deficiencies.
Can the offense overcome the defense, as I translate here?
Is that from you? Or
that question's too stupid to be from you, so it's probably from Mike. So I'll go ahead and answer it. And it was confusing. What was it?
Can the offense overcome the shortcomings of the defense?
I don't have a Trump, but
I
do Cornelius Maximilian, and I used to do Bill Parcells, but I got to put a lot of cotton swabs in my mouth.
Yeah, we don't have time for that.
He was an auto race expert. I'm sorry, what was the question?
Can the offense overcome the defensive shortcomings on this team?
The Cowboys offense?
Cowboys. We'll say Cowboys.
Yeah, what I see, Mike, if indeed this is Mike that I'm talking to, is you remember the early aughts Mavericks, where they were all offense with Dirk and Nash and Finley, and they didn't play any defense under Don Nelson, and they were really good, but they were never good enough to win a title. So I think this Cowboy team might be like that. I think they're going to be so dynamic offensively that they'll be a pretty good team, but ultimately their defense will not be good enough to win a title.
You know, you bring up an interesting point. Are we talking to Mike, or is this going straight to Clarice's Twitter feed?
How do you know Clarice isn't asking the questions?
I don't know. Mike,
she may be feeding them to Mike.
Unfortunately,
Mike, is Clarice feeding you these questions?
No, unfortunately, these are my questions, and this is me. Okay. George, our station ran a promo of the ticket training camp coverage, and clean-shaven Gordo really shook some people up on Twitter. I see the beard is back. If you wouldn't mind relaying questions having to do with what happened to the beard when it went away, and why has he grown it back?
What?
Mike wants to know about the beard and what's going on.
What about the beard?
You shaved it off, and he says that he got a lot of reaction on the Fox 4 promos, and now it's back. So what's going on?
Nothing much is going on. Is this you talking to me right now?
This is my own interpretation of Doocy's long-winded question.
Okay, I'm just confused as to what's happening here. Is Mike here?
No, Mike is in Dallas. We are here.
Okay, all right.
You don't know where you are?
So what does Mike need from you, or does he need something from me?
He wants to know from you what's going on with your facial hair. Why did you shave it off, and why did you grow it back?
I shaved it off for vacation just because I hadn't shaved it off in like 10 years, and so took it off and then grew it back like a week later.
I can answer that for Gordon if he doesn't want to answer.
Well, I mean,
he just answered it.
I mean, I don't know.
He shaved it off.
Will you give my answers to Mike?
Yeah. Gordon shaved off his beard on vacation just for a change of pace, just to see what it looked like, and now he's kind of growing it back.
Yeah,
I thought
and
there might be.
I understand he shaved it off because he wanted a different look, and now he's decided to bring it back.
Well,
Gordo,
I thought there might be
my questions
a funny story there, George. But clearly, I was wrong.
Do you have one for me?
We're out of time.
The answer will come through Gordo.
Well, I wish go through George first.
I wish we could just go on forever. We're going to use the best 30 seconds of this. The Musers, George Dunham, Craig Miller, Gordon Keith, weekdays 5:30 till 10. Part of the ticket team helping us with our coverage from Oxnard over the next few weeks, guys.
Did you hear him?
I didn't
hear
Mike.
I don't hear Mike.
I don't hear.
Bye, Mike. Thank you. Say bye.
Bye, Mike. Thank you.
Is that it? Was this an interview?
That was it.
Is this going to air?
No, it was just a thing. They're going to cut it.